With the exception of parents, it's educators who have witnessed firsthand the ravages of this COVID-19 pandemic, with its spotlight on racial and economic injustice that have really touched the soul and the center of the lives of young people. You've had front row seats to a show no one wanted to watch, and it's because you love young people. You've lost young people. You've watched young people lose their family members and watched them struggle with isolation, with eating disorders and disordered eating, cutting and other self-harming or self-destructive behaviors, food and housing insecurity and injustice. You've seen it all, and you've seen it all up close. And except for you, many, many more young people probably wouldn't have made it this far. Thank you. I want to say thank you. It's possible you are hearing these words and you're thinking of all the things you didn't do or didn't do well or didn't do well enough. Or you're thinking of all the mistakes you've made over this last year or 18 months, or the regrets from this last year or 18 months. I'm hoping that you'll remember you did your amazing work. You lived into your passion for education and young people in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic. There was no manual, there was no guide, there was no playbook. You were building that plane while you were flying it, and you were caring for all the passengers inside all at the same time. Of course, you made mistakes. How could you not? You struggled. How could you not? There may have been days that you didn't want to teach anymore. And maybe there were more of these days than you might yet be ready to admit to yourself. There may have been days when you couldn't tell anything you did made a difference. And maybe many days you weren't sure how you yourself would make it through. I'm reminded and often turn to a quote from one of my dear mentors, a man named Harvey Jackins, that I'd like to share with you. That every single human being at every moment of the past, if the entire situation is taken into account, has always done the very best they could do, and so deserves neither blame nor reproach from anyone, including self. This in particular is true of you. You, each of you, all of you have done the very best you could. That is true of just not only you, but your colleagues as well. You've done the best you could given the resources you had, and the ones you didn't. You've done the best you could given the impacts of oppression on your personal lives and on the lives of your students. Even when you've made mistakes, even on your worst day in the classroom, even when you've made decisions or taken actions that you regret now or wish you could take back, you are still good. Maybe you could even try saying those words, these words to yourself, that all educators are completely good. And maybe in the moment where you're watching this video, in some quiet moment, you could repeat out loud these words to yourself, that I am completely good. Frankly, what you have figured out, both individually and collectively, is nothing short of miraculous. It's been that hard. These last 18 months may have been the hardest in your personal life and in your work with young people. I'm hoping that you will be pleased with yourself. In fact, I think we need us to be pleased with ourselves. In fact, that might be the only correct perspective to take right now. And I understand the pull to notice the ones that you couldn't reach, or the ways that we or the systems that we're a part of fell short, very, very short for what our young people deserved. And it did, and we did, and still we can be pleased. Coming from a place of deficit and discouragement and disappointment will only leave us more deflated, or coming at our work from a place of urgency or looking for redemption. And those approaches simply aren't workable in a just world. What I have witnessed in my last 27 years as a racial justice student and educator is that when we're given the opportunity to heal in community, we organize. We come together in solidarity. We no longer see our struggles as personal failings or individual weakness. We no longer agree to have our internalized oppression pathologized or criminalized. We can see there is a bigger system at play. We can come together in solidarity to transform the system from a place of healing rather than blame each other or turn the effects of oppression against ourselves when we can understand oppression is at work, big but not bigger than each and every one of us. And if we can remember that each of us is good, that's the baseline from which we can do this work together.